Well, hello everybody, and thank you guys so much for being patient. Yesterday was a very strange day here as far as the weather. It came in, lost power a couple times, and we probably could have gotten it done yesterday, but I didn't want it to go out in the middle and then everybody be like, where'd she go? So thank you guys for joining me here today. So what I want you to do, because I can see all of your comments, is I want you to drop down into the comments and just tell me where you guys are joining me from. So again, we are expecting some weather. I think it's gonna hold off until like 5 o'clock, so we're gonna cross our fingers. Hey Brenda. So Brenda is like literally like kind of right around the corner from me. So hopefully you did not lose power yesterday, Brenda. Okay, so July is ruler month. I'm super excited. It's interesting. I have a business coach and she's always like, hey, so what are you doing with your rulers? And I'm like, well, I really don't do a whole much as far as talking and promoting my rulers. I really focus heavily on the Creative Design Society and the Design Academy. So I thought, how much fun would it be every week to go live with you guys and talk about some of my rulers? So for those of you that don't know, I created my first ruler way back in, I think it was about 2010. So you'll see the quilt on the wall back here. I know it's not a great picture, great view because my background is fuzzy, but because I wanted to do perfectly straight lines an eighth of an inch apart. And on this particular quilt, I actually didn't have the ruler then. So I got it done. The quilt was great. It won 2 best of shows. So clearly I did a decent job eyeballing that eighth of an inch. But I thought, okay, there has got to be a better way to do it. And that's what really started me on my ruler journey. So do me a favor, leave it in the comments. Give me a 1 to 5. How comfortable are you using rulers? Like 1 if you're a total beginner, and a 5 if you're like, I've got it, I'm good, I love rulers and I use them every day. So do me a favor and leave that in the comments. So what we're going to talk about today are straight rulers. So I have 3 basic straight Quilter's Groove rulers, right? So I have my Pro Mini, I have the Pro, which is a little bit bigger, and then I have the big Pro Max. So realistically, people are like, I think I'm going to go middle of the road. I'm going to go with the middle one, right? And that's typically the first one people get. And it's funny because I'm the complete opposite. I love this Pro Mini. I use it for stinking everything. And the reason I do is it fits nicely in my hand, okay? So we'll get to that in just a little bit. But straight ruler should really be your first ruler that you get. I don't want you going out and buying some sort of specialty ruler such as clamshells or waves or anything like that. You really want to make sure that you're using straight ruler first, because what if you invest money in a whole bunch of rulers and you think, once you do it, you're like, oh, I don't like rulers at all, they suck. Then you're stuck with all these rulers. So my very good friend Barb Persing, who lives around the corner from me, she doesn't use rulers, and she does amazing work. She's very organic and free-flowing, and I'm a little bit more structured. So it's a good thing she didn't buy a whole stinking lot of rulers in the beginning, because then she'd be like, I got a whole bunch of money sitting in a drawer that I don't use. So I go with the Pro Mini. So I've got notes down here just to make sure I touch on all the points that I want to. So not just stitch in the ditch with the straight rulers, right? There are so many great designs you can do with straight rulers. So let's just talk cross hatching you do with straight rulers, you do beadboard, you do piano keyboarders. So there's a lot of fun things that you can do with your straight rulers. So it is also, your straight ruler is the gateway, it's the gateway ruler into, do I like rulers, and do I need to buy every ruler I come across, right? Because there's some of those. Raise your hand if that is you and you're like, I come across, I'm like, gotta have that ruler. So anyway, just really quickly, my rulers are 1/4 of an inch thick. They are perfect for long arm quilting. They are perfect for domestic quilters with a high shank machine. If it's a low shank machine, what happens is you won't be able to put the ruler behind your foot. It'll come down and hit it, okay? So high shank machines, most Berninas or the newer Berninas do have high shank machines. That's my jam. I have Bernina, so I don't know about all of the others. Okay, so really quick, my markings are etched on here, right? So they're not gonna scrape off. I worked with my manufacturer and we tried to print them on because they're less expensive if it's printed on, but didn't get done because they will knock off. So there are markings on here. So you will see all of the markings. I've got markings all 1/4 inch. I've got 45 degrees on here as well for doing that fun cross hatching. If you have questions, do me a favor, pop it into the comments with a Q in front of it, because afterwards I'll be able to go back, scroll through all the Qs and answer your questions. So I'm not going to keep you for a ton of time today because I know we all want to get back into our studios and have some fun. Okay, so go-to uses for your straight rulers. Obvious, stitch in the ditch, right? Perfect. Okay. Echoing around your blocks. So I do a lot of echoing on my blocks. Cross hatching, whether it be straight or on the 45. You could even do 60-degree diamond cross hatching. Grid work, plaid texture, so we're talking basket weaves, all of that stuff. And then borders, right? So we've got our piano key, we've got our beadboard, those are the simpler ones, but you can do a whole plethora of fun designs in your borders with straight rulers. So again, just going back, straight rulers are the jam, and they are an essential part of your arsenal, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna change my camera view. We're gonna cross our fingers. I'm having some issues with lighting, so I'm gonna cross my fingers and hope, but I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing over there. So please hold. Okay, give me a thumbs up or a okay, I can see a yellow quilt. That would be great if you guys could let me know that. I am going to pull my computer over so I can see anything that you guys are typing. Okay, so here we go. One of the things that, again, if I've got my 3 rulers laid out here, I know you're gonna get a, there we go, we'll move it over here. I, again, like this small one for my stitch in the ditch. It fits perfectly in my hand, okay? And so that works really well. What happens is when you start going to larger rulers, if I'm holding way down here, okay, it's fairly, yeah, I don't think, hold on, let me just give one. Let me know, Wendy, if that's a little bit better. Trying to adjust the brightness via the computer. I tried turning the light off and it didn't really work. Okay. What happens is, here's my little foot. If I am down here stitching, okay, I'm fine. But as soon as I start getting up here where my hand isn't, that's when we have all that fun wobbling and slippage, and then our straight lines don't end up being so straight, right? So if I'm holding down here, and I always start and stop with my needle in the down position. I'm going to stitch up here. I'm going to stop here with my needle in the down position, and then I'm going to reposition my hand, and then I'm going to continue on. So that's one of the reasons why sometimes longer rulers are not always better. Even more so if we look at this large ruler, you're moving your hand a couple times as you're stitching. Okay? Not saying that this isn't a good ruler, it has its purposes, but for stitch in the ditch, this is the go-to ruler. Now I'm going to kind of zoom in here just a little bit. See if I can get zoomed in just a little bit more. Okay. Now when you're doing stitch in the ditch, I always again needle down when I start and stop. I'm going to position my ruler right next to it, and I'm going to just stitch up. And then when you turn the corner, you can either place your ruler behind your foot, because really it's going to be like this, behind the foot, or you can place it in front, whichever works best for you. There is not a right or wrong way. There is your way of doing it, okay? So just so you know that. So again, I can use this particular ruler. I can do all of my stitch in the ditch. You can't really see it on here, but I have cross hatching in here, so I can use it for the cross hatching in here. And then I also have cross hatching out on my border. The longer, let me pull this into view so you can see it. I don't think you'll be able to see the stitch in the ditch, but so this cross hatching is not on the 45, it's just right on the 90. I would use this particular one for all of these, and then I probably would get my longer ruler out to do these longer ones. But again, I'm not just starting here and going all the way down. I'm working very slowly. I'm starting, I'm stopping, and I'm moving my hand. Okay? One of the things that you have to remember when you're using rulers is you have to have a ruler base, or you're not going to have a stable environment, we'll say, for your rulers, right? It's going to tip like this on your long arm, okay? So that's super important. When we are starting and stopping, okay, I am going to take a couple of small tiny stitches here in the corner. When I stop, I'm going to do the same thing. Now, if I were going to be doing a straight line from here to here, where you're really going to see it, and I have to stop in the middle for whatever reason, you don't have enough throat space or anything like that, I am going to tie off like a hand quilter would. So I'm going to stitch here, I'm stopping, I'm pulling my bobbin thread up to the top, and I'm going to clip it, and then I'm going to knot it off, okay? That way you're not going to see that start and stop. Any questions so far? Okay. So that's the scoop on these particular straight rulers, but I do want to touch on, hold on, just grabbing them over here. I do want to touch on these because these I use for just about everything. So you'll see itty bitty tiny lines right here. And I realize you can't see that. So let me see if I can get it closer up for you guys to see. So you could see tiny little lines right there. They are 1/16 of an inch apart. And I wanted those perfect, similar to the 1/8 of an inch apart that I had. So I am using this particular ruler. This is the Quilter's Groove Pro line. There are 5 different sizes. Okay, so we've got a large one. This does a 1-inch spacing. We have a 1/2 inch spacing. I'm going to show you how to use these in just a second. We've got a 1/4 inch. We have an 1/8 inch, and we've got the 1/16 inch. So I'm just going to kind of show you how these work with my fake little hopping foot here. So you have this spot right here. It's an opening in the ruler, and it slips down over the shaft of the hopping foot so that you can get it in there. So as it sits here, I'm holding this side. I stitch up, then I stitch over. I stop when I hit this side of the ruler with my needle down, and then I shift my ruler over. Then I stitch down, stitch over, stop with my needle down, and then I shift over, up, over, and then you keep doing that. So as soon as I move my foot from this side of the ruler to this side of the ruler, I have moved, this is the 2, so I've moved a 1/2 inch, okay? And that's how I get some of these designs. So let me show you those. So I've got my cross hatching here. So this is a 1/2 inch cross hatching in here. And then I've got a 1/4 inch cross hatching here. So I used these particular rulers for both of these, and you get really nice, perfectly spaced lines. One of the things about the when you're doing cross hatching is that if your lines are a little off, your eye picks it up immediately, unlike curved cross hatching. Curved cross hatching is much more forgiving than straight cross hatching. So here in this particular one, you're going to see, let's turn it around. So here is my 1-inch spacing that I did with the Pro Line 1. We've got our 1/2 inch spacing. And then we've got our 1/4 inch. I know it's really kind of hard. There you go. 1/4 inch. Trying to get it so the light hits it just right. We've got our 1/8 inch, and then we've got our 16th, little tiny 16th inch. That one's really hard to see. So that's really fun. Now I've got this border. I love this border. So when we talk about designs that we can actually do with our straight ruler, I've got this bead board here, but it's on the diagonal. So that's a great fun thing that you can do with a straight ruler. And then I also have the bead board on the inside in here as well. So you can kind of see that. And then I also, in my stars, I've got the echoing. So you can really, really use that straight ruler, excuse me, for quite a bit of design work in your quilting. Can you tell I love straight rulers? Okay, so again, this has the piano key border. This was the 1/2 inch. I used the Pro Line 2 on this particular border. The nice thing about it is you do not have to measure or mark. And for me, I love that. I'm super lazy and I really don't want to have to measure or mark the border. So what you can do is you can start in the center and you can work your way out if you need it to be perfectly spaced in the corners, or you can start over here and work your way this way. Either way definitely works. So what I did want to let you know, all the rulers that I showed you today, let me change my camera. There we are. Okay, all of the rulers that I showed you today are 15% off over in my store, which is lisahkaye.com. I thought I had it up on my screen, but clearly I do not. Let me see if I can find it and pop it up there. There we go. Okay. So if you go over there for this week only, they're 15% off. If you have any questions, that would be lovely. I'm here to answer them. I know it was kind of hard to see. Wasn't quite bright enough outside where I can turn off my inside studio lights. So I'm going to play around with my lighting for next week before we do the curved rulers and hope to get that much better. Is anybody else having problems with audio, or can you guys hear me okay? Let's look. Hold on. Let's see if I can see what's going on. It looks like it's okay. All right, well, let me know. All right, I'm going to scroll through the comments really quick just to see if anybody had any questions. I see we've got some people that are really liking the Pro lines. We love that. Question. Okay, Cheryl has a question. Are you aligning the top part of the ruler so you know that it's straight? So yeah, so Cheryl, on the rulers, there's horizontal lines. So what I'll do is I will find one of the straight lines within my piecing, and I will line that up to make sure that all of my lines are straight. One of the nice things is I've been doing this for so long that I'm fairly good at eyeballing things. As you know, like we have our foot is a 1/2 inch round and the needle sits in the middle, so it's a 1/4 of an inch off. Do you know what I mean? 1/4 of an inch all the way around. If your needle is off a little bit, when you go to use the rulers such as these, there will be a slight discrepancy maybe in the size that you do. So you might get like a little less than the inch or a little bit more. And one of the things I always like to say is don't worry so much about it's got to be an inch. Just make sure that it's all consistent, right? So if it's off a little bit, you want it off a little bit on all of them. Cheryl, let me know if that answers your question. I think that was the only question I got. I think that was the only question. All right. So again, didn't want to keep you for too long. I know you guys want to get into your studios. Karen says the mini is also her go-to. Yeah. Again, that's my favorite, and it's literally the least expensive ruler that I sell. So if you guys don't have a straight ruler, that's definitely one to go with. You'll also notice on some of my rulers, I have this grip tape on the back of it, and that's so that the rulers don't slip. One of the things, again, I don't have it on all of my rulers because I've been doing this for so long that I'm fairly adept at making sure that my rulers don't slip. But grip tape of some sort on the back can definitely help. And you guys are gonna think that I'm nuts. Maybe not if I can't find it. I literally just had it. Okay, well, I don't know where it went. But I like to use, interesting. I like to use machingers. And you're gonna laugh, but they give you just a little bit of extra grip. And I know they're meant for sit-down quilters, domestic quilters, to give you that grip. But if you find that you tend to have a death grip on your ruler, I'm telling you right now, buy a pair of machingers. They're gloves, they're white, they've got little grippies on the tips, and makes a huge difference. I use them a lot when I'm doing a lot of ruler work because my hands tend to fatigue, and that helps with that. So yeah, gotta get a pair. of course, I don't know where mine went, and I've already lost one of them because I only wear one when I'm like, a gremlin took it. A gremlin took it. I only wear one. Obviously, I don't wear two. I drive with my one hand and I hold my ruler with my other one. So, do I use any machines with low shanks? I do not use a low shank machine. My machines are high shank machines. One of the things that I can tell you is there are rulers out there, not obviously these kind, but you can find straight ones that are thinner. I don't remember what the thickness is on them, but those they make them specifically for low shank machines. So hopefully that helps. Thank you, Wendy. Wendy says, am I picking up a Philly or South Jersey accent? I am outside of Philadelphia, but I grew up in North Jersey. I didn't think that I had an accent, but I guess that I do. That's funny. Okay. Question. What about... So Cheryl... Okay, hold on. Let me go back for just a second. So Dawn, yeah, I mean, again, if I had samples with contrasting thread, I would definitely be showing them. I don't have a whole lot with contrasting thread, so I'm gonna work on that lighting for next week because it just needs to come from the side so that you can kind of see more of the definition. Sandy says her biggest problem... My biggest ruler problem is holding them still on my domestic machine, and I use a spray, but things shift anyway sometimes. So Sandy, I would say try doing smaller, like small areas, right? So yeah, domestic, it's a little harder. Hopefully you have a big ruler, like a base, right? That you're not just quilting without some sort of table there. I think that'll help. And then if you just work in smaller sections and not try to do like a big long line or a big long curve, maybe that will help. And then starting and stopping with your needle in the down position so that when you do adjust, your quilt isn't shifting and moving. On the pro line, does it matter what side you sew the line on? On the side with the opening or not? It does not. It does not. And it's funny because with the pro line, I have people that will stitch up, stitch over, and then stitch down, and then move over, and then move over. And for me, found that I get into a really good rhythm if I just go up, over, move it, down, over, move it, up, over, move it. And then it was funny because I was teaching, I can't remember where I was, but one of the students had like a saying that she would say when she was doing it. It was funny. Question from Cheryl, what about with whole cloth? So with a whole cloth, Cheryl, when I'm trying to do rulers most of the time, and let me just move this stuff out of the way because I do have a whole cloth. I don't think you're going to be able to see it, but we'll see. Oh, there's my machinger. It was hiding. I found it. Okay. So with a whole cloth, let me just switch my camera and let's see if you guys can see it. No, you won't be. You can see very lightly. Very light markings. Whole cloths I mark. So I'm going to be marking that with a water soluble pen in order to do that. But it's funny that you asked that since I have a whole cloth all ready to go. Do you ever use a curved ruler? Oh my God, David, all the time, right? So next week we're gonna go over curved rulers. I love curved rulers. I have the Pro Echo, the Quilter's Groove Pro Echoes that I designed specifically for how I quilt. So we're going to go over all the curved rulers next week, which means that they'll also be on sale next week. So that'll be the curves and the circles. So we'll be going over all of that stuff. Carolyn asks if I can go over the bead board. Yes. Let me grab, let's see. I don't think you're going to be able to see that one. Hold on just 1 second. I don't think you're really going to be able to see it, but I will try and get it where you can see it. So can you guys see right up here? This is the bead board, okay? And what it is it's just like this is 1 inch in here, this is 1/4 of an inch. So that's the spacing on this particular one. And I just think it adds a little bit more oomph than just the regular piano key. So that's the bead board. And I do have some YouTube videos on how to actually execute that. So Lynn, yes, as far as if I use that ruler to do the bead board, I actually do. And how that's going to look is I'm going to stitch down, stitch over just 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to know it's 1/4 of an inch because the side of my foot is going to be right on the line that I just did. So I'm going to stitch over that 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to move my ruler, then I'm going to stitch up, then I'm going to stitch all the way over. When I do this particular design, I try and make sure that my long lines are done in the binding and not down here, right? More room for error there. Hopefully that helps. Yeah, the beadboard is awesome. So Heidi says she uses the grippy spray. It will still slide just with a light spray. Okay. Wendy says her machingers, let's see. My machingers, I cut a bit of the pinky out so that I can use my touch phone. Oh, I love that. That's a great idea. Savannah always loses the right one. That's funny. I don't know where my right one actually is, Savannah, so I think we're on the same page with that. Cheryl, is there an easy way to align them when an applique is in the middle of your path? Yeah, so if you've got applique in your path, sometimes, oops, I was going to change that. Hold on. Sometimes it's easier to actually mark that line. Trying to think. I don't think I have an example of that handy. I don't. But it's might be easier to mark your cross hatching if you've got applique set in the middle. Again, I don't like to mark, and I will try to avoid it, but if there's applique and you want it perfect so that everything aligns, marking is the way to go for sure. Bristol, PA. Okay, you're not too far, Wendy. Marianne, you said, yep, a black light is definitely a good thing. Yep. So Sandy, yeah, so if your machine is set down in the table, thank you, I was trying to get that out of my mouth. It just wasn't coming out. Yeah, I would try just going in shorter areas. Don't try to stitch so much of the ruler, and see if that helps. But yeah, I mean, look, I give kudos to the domestic quilters because it is a whole different animal that I am not used to. And I've done a little bit of work on the domestic with rulers, but I'll tell you, not much at all, because it's a little difficult. So sorry, Sandy. Can you hold this week's orders to ship after we add to the order next week? Oh, Marianne, that's a big ask. I can try. My problem is that it is literally just me here doing it all. And so since I don't know who is ordering next week and who's not ordering next week, you do receive free shipping. I think it's on $125 or more. So let me see how I can make that happen. When you place your order, Marianne, just put it in the notes, and I'll try and hold your order. Okay. There's a right and a left on the machingers. I flip them all the time. Wendy, you're right. I mean, they're really, I mean, this is the one that I use all the time, and I could literally, because the grippy goes all the way around the finger, I can use it on either hand. Yay! Because I don't know where my other one, I have no idea where my other one is. And no, Sandy, you are not the only one who has that trouble. I can guarantee you. So, yes, this is a great idea. I've used painter's tape to go over the applique to line up the stitching. Brilliant, 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 brilliant idea. Yes, definitely. So that is all I have for you guys. If you guys don't have any more questions for me, I'm going to release you guys to your studio. Again, don't forget all of the straight rulers that I mentioned today are 15% off for the week. Yay, we like that. And I was going to tell you something else, and now I can't remember what I was going to tell you. If you like all of this type of stuff, we do this quite a bit, this type of thing, within the Creative Design Society, which is my monthly membership. Currently only $9.97 a month, which is insane. You get a tutorial every month. There are design videos dropped once a week. Once a week we have a Zoom where we all come together. We have sew-ins on Sundays. Hopefully we're going to get back to our 3 days a week in the fall. So it's a great deal, and the price is going to be going up. Most likely, I think it's in September. So if you're interested in that, you can find more of that at lisahkaye.com. And then we also have the Design Academy, which is how I look at a quilt and design the actual quilting. So if at all through these couple of weeks you're like, wow, I really like how Lisa designs the quilting, that class is a deep dive into how I design the quilting. It is good for long armors, domestic quilters, sit-down quilters, as well as I've had some hand quilters in there as well. So all of that information you can find on my website. So I'm going to let you go. Have a fabulous day. It is now, looks like it's going to start raining and storming here. So just in time, you guys, and I will see you next week. Next week, it is hopefully going to be Monday, barring any freaky storms that we might have. But Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to talk curved rulers. All right, you guys, have a great day.